Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Health Made Simple Show. I'm your host, Dr. Bart, and today we're going to cover a topic. The topic is common, and it's a big buzzword nowadays called longevity. And the way we're going to approach this today is really from two different directions. One, so we'll call the title of this podcast today is going to be Longevity, the Goal, and also the Mistake. So the goal and the mistakes that people make when it comes to the entire conversation of longevity. So this is right on the heels of, I just got back this weekend from teaching a longevity seminar in Indianapolis. And again, very grateful for the opportunity to go out and teach these for a couple of selfish reasons. And then also just for the opportunity to meet so many incredible men and women out there. So let me give you a little backdrop on it. So I go out and I've been teaching functional medicine and functional nutrition think back to about 2016. Now, I've been practicing for the past 30 years, but out teaching in the market since about 2016. And when I first started teaching, it was pretty predictable who was going to be at the workshops or seminars, if you want to call them. Mostly alternative practitioners, naturopaths, chiropractors, acupuncturists. Well, this past weekend, times are changing, folks. And so I tell you, the future looks bright. Future really looks bright in the terms of healthcare and providers who are going to have the knowledge and the tools to help you, to help me, to help your neighbors, your communities, to really level up from a holistic perspective, from doing things from the inside out. The attendance this past weekend, medical doctors, so MDs, pediatricians, RNs, LPs, PAs, DCs, doctors of chiropractic, acupuncturists, naturopaths, spread out across the board. This is entirely different than it was about 10 years ago. So I'm really encouraged to see that so many men and women that are out there trying to serve and just help communities and help other people to just level up their health are really looking at alternative ways. And men, I'll tell you also, and if any of them happen to be listening now, I'm always what's the right word? I'm always in gratitude. I'm always impressed by these men and women who are willing to go out and they have practices, they have lives, they have weekends, they have families, they have things to do. And yet they're spending 6-8+ hours with me just diving in deep. And this weekend was about longevity. So I have another emotion that inevitably really prevails after and really during the seminar. And it's like this. And again, there's absolutely no judgment in this, but I'm human. And as someone who just cares about other humans, I care about you. I care about my patients. I care about my family. There's a part of me that when I go to these seminars and I'm teaching longevity, teaching functional medicine, and I'm looking at the audience, I'm thinking, man, I wish they heard this 10 years ago. I wish they applied this 10 years ago. So part of my message today, and some of these things that I share with you today, you might have heard come out of my mouth before if you listen to the Health Made Simple podcast. I'm going to implore you to take action now, folks. Do not wait. Do not wait another single day to start some level of exercise. I don't care if it's taking a 5-minute walk or doing 3 push-ups today. Do something. You can do that. I know this. Do not wait to start to improve your diet. In fact, I'm going to tell you as fast as you can, get extreme. Don't kind of do things. Don't sort of do them. As fast as you can. You have to start with the first step. You have to start with the first push-up. But as fast as you can, get extreme with your health. Because on the other side of being extreme is everything that you're seeking right now. Energy, vitality, hope, longevity, strength, wellness, all of the above, mental acuity, all of these things take a relentless pursuit of health. And if you happen to be 40 years old, 50 years old, 60, 70, 80 years old, you gotta push the pedal down, meaning you gotta raise the bar. You gotta level up in such ways you don't really have time, frankly, to make small changes. Yes, we have to start. So I know I'm sending like 2 messages right now. Start anywhere with the intention, the goal of getting extreme. Start small with the goal of getting extreme. And don't make the mistake I'm about to share with you in just a moment here. So I'm going to encourage you to do that because when I see out there, I see a lot of men and women that are at these seminars, and I see them every day in my practice as well, that have really committed their lives to helping other people. Who does that sound like? Sounds like you, right? Most of your life, you've probably been putting other people first. Well, I'm going to encourage you. I get that. Continue to help people, but you got to put yourself first. You have to. It's not even optional. No, it's not selfish. It is the right thing to do to become the best version of yourself on a daily basis. here's an interesting question that I'm going to share with you, and let it sink in and ask yourself or answer this for yourself as well. I went around the entire room and I asked everyone, what age do you want to live to? And the answers were very, very interesting. And they ranged anywhere from 120 to as long as I can be comfortable. I don't care how long it is as long as I'm comfortable, which is very interesting. And the reason I say it's interesting, so if you say 120, that happens to be my number. I say I want to live to 120. And if you've heard me speak before, you understand that I always say shoot for the bullseye. Do not kind of go for 80-20, swing for the home run, shoot for the bullseye, knowing that you're probably not going to hit a home run every time, that you're probably not going to hit the bullseye all the time. So if I shoot for 120, I make it to 110, beautiful. Game on, right? So the question really, as you're answering the question, 110, 120, whatever your age is that you want to live to, the question is, are you preparing yourself to be the best version up until that age? Are you doing things that would add up? Is the math adding up? And the next little bit that I'm going to share with you today is exactly what I shared with the attendees, the doctors that are in my seminar that are then going to go back and share with their patients. This is going to determine whether or not you're preparing for it. Because really, folks, it comes down to this. There's something called the 4 horsemen of disease. These are things that we know about and often don't want to talk about. Really, what are they? Cardiovascular disease. Yeah, heart disease. Type 2 diabetes. Another way of saying that is metabolic disease. Cancer, number 3. And number 4 is neurodegenerative diseases. These are things like Parkinson's, dementia, Alzheimer's. Folks, the 4 horsemen of disease are on their way to your front doorstep. They are. Unless you're choosing to move away from them. Now, you might say, of course, I'm going to choose to move away from them. Then the question is, are you collecting any data to find out what direction you're going into? Let's just imagine you're getting in your car right now. And your goal, so I'm here in the panhandle of Florida. Let's just say I want to go due north. I want to go to Chicago. I really don't want to go to Chicago, but no, let's just say I'm heading on a trip and I want to go to Chicago. And yeah, I'm in my car and I'm driving along for hours. I feel good. Nothing's wrong. I'm listening to some good music. Things are comfortable. And yet when I look at the map and the GPS, I recognize that I'm actually going to Dallas, which I'd love to go to. But nonetheless, I'm going in the wrong direction. If I have the data, I can make an adjustment. Now, depending on how long I've been going in the wrong direction, I might really have to backtrack. I might have to really make up for some ground. And this, of course, is an analogy for your health. Maybe you've been off track for a minute. Just, folks, all that matters is that you recognize when you're off track. And that's what success is. I don't care if it's your health, your wealth, your relationships. Really, success is not measured in dollars or in things that you accumulate. It really, success is measuring how quick do you get off track and how quickly do you get back on track. That's really a bigger measure of success. Are you moving in the right direction? And how do we find that out for certain? And the answer is through data. So specifically here today, I'm talking about running the proper labs, collecting the data as we get older. Do you absolutely need them to know? And the answer is no, you don't. But what if you did have them? What if you knew you could make a 10%, a 25%, a 40% improvement just based on your labs, just based on the data you collect? I'm going to give you a couple examples. A great example is this, and I presented this case to the entire group, and it was very, very interesting. Brilliant men and women, all walks of life. I presented them a case, and I started off with the lipid panel. For many of you are practitioners, listen to this, and even if you're not, you'll understand this because it's fundamental what I'm going to talk about. So lipids, think of cholesterols. And I showed him these markers, and this young gentleman had high LDLs. And just looking at it, it's super high, it's not super high, like his total cholesterol, I think, was in the 260s. LDLs in the 180s. And some would consider both of those super high. I don't consider those super high, but nonetheless, it always depends on all the other markers. So looking at from just a cholesterol perspective, you might say, hey, listen, if these keep going, you might run into cardiovascular disease. So therefore, we need to lower these cholesterols. And most of the time, see, cholesterol is something that's checked throughout our country nonstop. It's probably the most common thing checked. And yet I'm not going to say completely. I almost did. It's not completely done wrong, yet it's certainly not being done in such a way that is complete and accurate for each individual. So by just looking at this gentleman's marker, LDLs would have been considered too high, total cholesterol high, and therefore the recommendation probably be a statin. But we ran significant markers. For those of you who have run markers with me, you know that when we do a comprehensive lab panel, it's comprehensive, 130 plus markers, and a lot of other docs will say, oh my God, that's too much. What do you need all of that data for? I'm going to give an example. This gentleman's, we ran full iron panel, full thyroid panel, full hormone panel. We run all the lipids, particle sizes, insulin resistance. We run it all. And a very interesting finding, and this is where I'm just giving an example, that he's headed to Dallas and he's trying to go to Chicago, and he doesn't know because he feels fine, other than being a little fatigued through the course of the day, but his lipids are high. And if we attack those lipids, this gentleman would be in big trouble, because really what happened was we ran a full thyroid panel, which he's had run 2 other times in his life, but the panel wasn't complete. They never ran his antibodies. We run his antibodies, and here he is, 40-year-old male, a little bit younger than that, and he has full-blown Hashimoto's. If you have Hashimoto's, you're running a most likely constant inflammation, systemic inflammation in the body. What does it mean? Basically, it means that your thyroid doesn't release your thyroid has an issue because your liver doesn't release the enzymes that help take the lipids out of the bloodstream, because your thyroid's functioning at a slower pace. So now that your thyroid slows down, the liver can't release the enzymes to take the LDLs out of the blood. So therefore, your LDLs rise up in the blood. It is not the LDL's problem. This is not a heart problem, folks. It's a thyroid problem in this gentleman's case. But if we don't look closely at what's taking place in all the labs, they can get misdiagnosed. We can get underdiagnosed. We're just kind of flat out just poorly treated, frankly. So anyways, the data becomes so important. What do I usually recommend? A full-blown comprehensive panel. I don't have enough time to go through all the markers, but I will tell you this. One of the most important ones, and this is big emphasis I have when I teach about longevity. You absolutely positively want to know your status when it comes to insulin resistance. Insulin resistance is the one marker, it's an inflammatory marker that says you have become resistant to the effects of insulin, which is a big metabolic issue. But that one marker is the marker that links the 4 horsemen of disease. It links cardiovascular disease, cancer, neurodegenerative diseases, and type 2 diabetes, or all the metabolic disorders. And that is the only marker that is common amongst all of those as a common trait. So if you have that data, you had insulin resistance, wouldn't you make some change? And this is where, if you're practicing this longevity game, and the beauty is nowadays, we have a better understanding of what labs to draw so we can make better strategies and better outcomes in the long haul. You still have to take action at 100%. So the goal is longevity. The goal is to be the best version of ourselves. And let's define that too, because that got a little confusing as is. So the age isn't just the thing that we're trying to achieve. It's really a health span. And the health span is a lot different than just a lifespan. We have more people living longer right now. Unfortunately, though, the decade of decline is actually increasing. So statistically, there is what we call a decade of decline. So if you take the average guy in our country that dies probably 74, 75, 76 years old, there's a decade prior to that. This is the average guy. The average guy will go through a decade of decline where there's no turning back. At this point, everything starts to decline. The ability to function in life, the ability to enjoy family time, the ability to use your body, the ability to use your mind, the creativity, the love, the passion, the emotions, the experiences that you have with other people start to be diminished. This is what they considered a decade of decline. That's even extending now. And for me, I've seen these things firsthand. I've watched people be in the system of not going for more, not having a goal of having an increased health span. And what does an increased health span mean? Increased health span means that you are moving better, you're eating better, you're thinking better, your body functions good, you're delaying this thing that we call aging. And do we have strategies for that? Absolutely. Everyone that you've heard about, everyone that you go on into Instagram and you hear about cold plunge and sauna and red light therapies and eating real foods and having elimination diets and doing some intermittent fasting, all of those are part of that journey. And yes, I think there's a place for every single one of them. Practice most of them myself. And yet they always start with 3 basics: how we move, how we eat, and how we think. And if we have the data to improve how we're moving, the data to improve how we're eating, the data to improve how we're thinking, then we can be practicing and moving the direction of this health span. So just living a long time, just for the sake of living. For example, the way I would share this is this. In an ideal world, let's just say that you have your grandma and she's like 98, 99 years old, and she's been pretty good this entire time. In an ideal world, all of a sudden something would happen, and I'll get, maybe I ask you and say, well, how's your grandma? And she, well, she was great up until October, and then all of a sudden she went downhill and she was gone November 1st. That would be beautiful if there was 30 days of massive decline. That would be amazing. So yes, and things are going to decline as we age, no doubt. Our physical body, our mental acuity is going to decline. But we have tools, we have strategies to push that envelope down the road. We know that by reducing the amount of inflammation, which we're now calling inflammaging, if we can reduce the inflammation, we know that we can create a body that has a longer and more sustainable health span. And so that's when we talk about insulin resistance. If you have this data, folks, and listen, the labs are going to be a little bit pricey. They are. Like, I get it. So, and I'm bringing a lot of this up today because this was a reminder this morning. Guess what I did? I went and got my labs done again. Yeah, I probably do anywhere from 3 to 4 times a year. Because as we go, so I'm no longer 20, I'm no longer 30, 40, I'm no longer 50, I'm moving halfway through my 50s. And the more data that we have of what direction you're going, the less ground you have to make up. And the more you're able to strategize in such a way that allows you to move forward fast. And that is the goal here. So, and yes, I don't think everyone needs to be running their labs 3, 4 times a year. I do it because that's what holds me accountable. I don't have many people that hold me accountable for my personal health. So that is one way that I do it. And if you're listening to this and you're an alpha dog, and that can be a male or female, listen, very few people hold us accountable for our health. I would say just about nobody does, unless it's your parents. So if you're an adult right now, pretty much nobody holds you accountable for your health. And unfortunately, most of the doctors, the healthcare system doesn't either. No one really talks about weight. No one really talks about physical fitness. Nobody talks about mobility, how well you can, move your arm. I brought this entire group this weekend through 3 mobility tests. And frankly, that was part of me that gets a little bummed out. And I'm older than most of them, or probably half of them in the room. I move 10 times better. And I'm not saying that to be impressed by me, but I just understand the fastest way to feel old, the number one reason that people will claim that they feel old. If you've ever said, man, I'm feeling so old, or I'm 45, I'm getting so old, or whatever it may be, it's for one reason, and it's because you move differently. It either hurts to get out of bed, or hurts to tie your shoes, get in and out of the car, something like that. You can't chase your kids or your dog as well as you once did. And that is the only time that you're ever going to start to complain about being old. But if you can move good, and moving good will have some requirements. You're probably going to have to maintain a decent level of weight. You're going to have to get some good rest. You're going to have to think good. So you're exercising, all the above. And that's why, folks, it really works together here. So wrapping up this podcast here today, again, I'm going to encourage you in any way, shape, or form I can to make sure you're collecting the data. Know where you're headed. Yeah, the 4 horsemen of disease, they're showing up. They're showing up for everyone who's not looking. And if they're on their way, we know through the labs. That's the beauty. If I missed out on that part up to this point, that's my message here today. We can look at the labs and we can make some pretty good predictions. And we're not using them to diagnose heart disease or diagnose type 2 diabetes, even though you really can. We're not using them to diagnose cancer or neurodegenerative diseases, but we know they're coming. And I will tell you this about the neurodegenerative diseases, Parkinson's, dementia, Alzheimer's. Do not wait for symptoms. By the time the symptoms come, it's too late. It is absolutely too late. It's a 20, 30-year disease. And right now, even with the beauty of the science and the technology and all the knowledge that we have right now, we have no answer for these. So, meaning that there's no correcting them. And there's some shady science out there about it, but right now there's no correcting those things. And what do we need to do about it? We need to clean up our diets. We need to get rid of the insulin resistance. We need to change the direction that we're headed. So with that being said, I appreciate you guys always listening. Keep doing your thing. Keep sharing it out. Keep spreading the love. And if this is hitting home for you, I'll make sure there's a link here today. If you want to run your labs with us, awesome. The typical labs that you'd probably run with your primary doc is frankly not going to do it. You want the inside scoop. You want to go down deep and look at everything collectively. The majority of labs that my patients bring me, and I'll always take your labs, In fact, it's one of our requests that anytime we see you as a patient, or we do a consult with you, that you send us whatever labs you have, so we understand what you've seen in the past, where you might have been, and where we may need to go. Yet anytime we see the labs, almost always they're incomplete. They're not enough data to really know what direction we need to move into next. So if you've already taken some labs, awesome. If you would like to do ours, I'll make sure there's a link below. We're going to test over 100 markers. You're going to pee in a cup, all the things. We'll test all your hormones. We'll test, guys, we'll check your PSA. If you're not doing that yet, yeah, you got to test it, guys. You got to get it tested. You can't just sit there and hope and pray and be like, wow, I feel pretty good, right? You can be feeling pretty good while you're on the road to the wrong place. All right. That being said, keep doing the thing, folks. I'll make sure there's a link below here today. If you want to do a consult with me or one of my team members, beautiful. They'll have the link there. You can sign, you can call us, you can email us, etc. With that being said, make sure you're taking deliberate action for your mind, your body, overall wellness. Y'all be awesome.